Hey there everybody, how's it going? This is Decaff with another scenery editor tutorial. Today we are continuing to talk about elevation grids, and today I want to show you how to export and then import an elevation grid. This is very useful for when you are wanting to have multiple elevation grids that are identical. And as you can see here, I have the original elevation grid from the previous video on the left, and on the right we have one that I imported in. They are identical in shape, but they're rotated slightly differently. The rotation was not my doing, it was the default setup in YS Flight Scenery Editor. So I will show you how to deal with that, how to rotate them back, also how to move these around relative to each other. So let's begin. What we want to do is select one of our elevation grids. In this case, I'm just going to select my original one. And so this is the same as any other item that you're going to want to select. Just hit Alt-SC or select menu, select item. This is the same as selecting a map item that is all polygons. This is the way to do it. It treats it the same way. The only difference, as you can see, is this blue bounding box that goes around it. Polygons will have a pink one. Elevation grids have a blue one. It's an easy way that you can use to tell them apart. So if you get a really cluttered map, you can quickly identify the different features. So now that we have it selected, what we're going to do is go File, Export Item. And we're going to give it a name. I've already got it named here, Elevation Grid Tutorial. And we hit Save. In this case, since I'm overwriting a file, that little menu pops up. So now we have that in there. What we're going to do is go to File, Import Elevation Grid. And now we need to define where this is going to come up. So what you want to do for this is not worry about the position at all. Just put it somewhere on your map that's not cluttered, that you can deal with moving around later. I've noticed that in Scenery Editor, sometimes where you actually place it, where you think you're going to place it, not quite precisely the same. So we're going to work on moving it now. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to escape from this by hitting the escape key. So now that we can actually go in and manipulate our elevation grids. So first thing we're going to do with this selected elevation grid, we're going to move it. We're going to move it just like any other item, and we can drag it around, place it in. But one thing I want to highlight and show you guys, let me spin this around so you can see, there we go, is the center of our elevation grid object here is elevated 150 units up off of the ground. Now notice this, but if you zoom out, it looks exactly like it's on the ground with the rest of them. Do not mess around with the height. I'm speaking from experience here. You do not want to reset that. I've spent a lot of time trying to fix mistakes that I made by doing that. You'll be flying along thinking visually, you look and, oh, I'm at 10,000 feet. I can descend a little farther, and all of a sudden your airplane explodes, you actually hit the ground. Well, visually, yes, you look like you're at 10,000 feet, but that's because your elevation grid was actually sunk down below. So go ahead and hit space to move it wherever you want. Just play around with the X and Z coordinates to fine-tune where you want this to go. And there we go. That is positioned perhaps how we want it. So what we can do now is rotate it. We go to Edit, Rotate Current Item, and you can apply this rotation tool to any item. You can drag your object. You got to click on the wheel that goes all the way around. Just drag it. Hit space to select, or you can go ahead and type in an exact angle that you want to do. Now notice that we can set where the center of this object is, sort of like with the Move tool, by just typing in to these centers up there. There's also a bunch of default degree options down here, where we can add in a couple of degrees, select them out, and we also have the option to go into radians. By default, it is in degrees, but we can go into radians. So let's say this is what we want. We hit space to accept, and now let's actually overlap our elevation grids. We're going to go to Edit, Move Current Item, and we're just going to drag it so we're overlapping a little bit. And you can use this just like YS Major did to make a racetrack. He has a very, very cool racetrack in his Libya map. I highly recommend you go and download his maps, open them up in Scenery Editor, and see some of the things he does. In his Vietnam map, he actually uses elevation grids overlapped and slightly different colors, a couple different elevation grids, to make forests. If you look at it in Scenery Editor, you say, oh yeah, that's a whole bunch of repetition. But as soon as you start flying it, that really doesn't stand out as much. So this is a very good technique that you can use to make some really interesting elevation grid shapes that you wouldn't be able to create any other way. I hope this video was useful and helpful. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask them in the comment section down below. As always, I'll do my best to answer them. And as always, I'm going to tell you to go and practice this. Practice makes perfect. So, good luck and have fun.